Hey everyone, in this video we're going to learn how to write piecewise functions given a graph, and we're going to learn how to graph piecewise functions given the equation. So let's talk about writing equations from a picture. So if we look at this picture, I like to go from left to right like I'm reading a book when I write my equations. All right, so I'm going to write f of x. And this particular function has two pieces to it. All right, so I'm going to start with the one on the left here. All right, notice it is a horizontal line. So if you think back to, your Algebra 1 days, horizontal line, hoivux, horizontal hoi, y equals. So this is going to be f of x equals a number. F of x is like the same as saying y equals. So what is your y value along this whole line forever and ever and ever? It's always going to be 3. Well, really, it's not forever and ever and ever because it stops, but it is 3. All right, now we want to describe what x values that happens at. If you look, all right, you have a filled in dot where the x value is -4, okay, and then you have an open circle where the x value is 2. All right, so x has to be between -4 and 2. All right, now because there's a filled in dot, think back to Algebra 2, filled in circles, filled in dots were the or equal to's. So your x value is going to be greater than or equal to -4, or -4 is less than or equal to x. And your x is just going to be less than 2 because it's an open circle. So x is between those two numbers, and it can actually fall on -4. The second half of our graph is a line. All right, well, really it's a ray because it has a, 1 point and then it goes on forever. All right, but to write the equation of a line or this ray, we need two things. We need a slope and we need a y-intercept. Okay, so our slope, if you can literally count it, you rise 2 and you run to the right 1. So we have a slope of 2. So I'm going to write 2x because remember from Algebra 1, y equals mx plus b. So we just figured out our slope piece. All right, now we have to figure out our y-intercept. Well, you might be saying it never hits the y-axis, but we can figure out where it would hit the y-axis by counting the slope in the opposite direction. So if we go down 2 into the left 1, down 2 into the left 1, notice we would eventually hit -6. So that is our y-intercept. -6 part. All right, I'm going to erase some of this so that I don't get confused. Now with my interval, notice that we start at 2 and then we go forever to the right. So x is going to be everything that is greater than or equal to 2. Feel free at any point in time to stop the video and try the other examples on your own. I'm going to keep working. So for this next one, all right, we have, let's see, 2 pieces again. All right, notice we kind of have this partial V shape. And remember back to Algebra 2, shape of a V is called absolute value. So this is an absolute value function. It's an upward facing V, so we know it's a positive absolute value function. All right, it also has a slope of 1 if you count it. So our A value there is 1. All right, now this particular absolute value function, notice its vertex is at 0, 0. So that means my h is 0 and my k is 0. So my equation is just going to be absolute value of x. Now we need the interval. Now notice we have a closed circle here when x is 2, and then it's everything to the left of that. So it's going to be x is less than or equal to 2 because it's everything to the left of 2. The next piece is a constant function. All right, so constant function, remember it's just whatever the y value is here, and the y value there is -1. All right, and that just goes from 2 to 5, both open circles, so it's going to be 2 less than x less than 5. All right, for the next piece, we're going to continue writing our equations here. All right, so the first part It's definitely a line. So two things we need, slope and y-intercept. You should notice that your slope is just 1. We rise 1, run 1. So we're just going to write x. Okay, and then we cross actually at 0, 0. So we could write x plus 0, or we could just write it as x. All right, and our interval there, it looks like goes from -3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 0. The next part is constant, and the y value there is 2. And that goes from 0 is less than x is less than 1. It's a very small interval. Okay, the last piece is not my favorite because on this picture you can't really tell that this is actually curved. All right, but if we continue this function in the same direction, you should notice that it's the form of a square root. In my lesson in class, I dealt with it like a line, and so we just kind of counted and found the slope and everything like that. But in this video, I'm going to deal with it as if it were a square root, but it'll be more clear on any test or quiz that you see. All right, so if we call this a square root function and it just continued, notice it hasn't shifted at all, and it also hasn't changed its a value. So it's just going to be the square root of x. And the interval there is going to go from 1, or sorry, yeah, I apologize. Hold on. No, we are going to do an interval. Sorry. 1 is less than or equal to x is less than 4. All right, this is the last graphing example. So I'm going to go through it really quickly. All right, for the first part, all right, notice it's a horizontal line, all right, whose y value is -2. So -2. The interval there, it's everything to the left of -3. So we would just write x, sorry, everything's starting to move and jump around. X is less than or equal to -3. All right, the next part is a line. Notice that's a negative slope. If you count that negative slope, though, it just happens to be -1. So I'm going to write -x, and then we hit the y-axis at 4. So +4. That interval is from -3 is less than x is less than 0. All right, and then the last piece again is a line. The slope of that line happens to be +1, and we hit the the y-axis at 0. So our line equation is just x, and that interval is when x is greater than or equal to 0. Now let's go in reverse. We're going to be given some equations and have to come up with the graphs. These questions are good if you need some help with like where your pieces should be. I'm going to kind of ignore them honestly and just focus on the problem. All right, I would do these always in pencil and then just erase what I don't need. So this is a line, right? The slope is 1 and the y-intercept is -1. So I'm going to put this y-intercept at -1, and I'm just going to literally put dots all along here representing this line. I can also go in the other direction to continue my line. I'm just going to put dots all the way down. Whoops, I screwed up there a little bit. Got too excited. And I also forgot to change it back to a pen. I apologize. All right. Now, let's worry about this second part. So this says only when x is greater than or equal to 2. So right here, x is 2. So this is the point. So we have a filled in circle since it's greater than or equal to. And because it's greater than or equal to, that's going to be going to the right. So I'm actually going to erase all of these extra purple dots. All right, I'm going to change my color to green. My second part says my y-intercept is 3, okay, and my slope is 1. All right, so again, I'm going to count that slope. I can go in both directions, but you should notice that we're never going to actually overlap right here with purple and green. So I've definitely gone too far, but that's okay because we can erase. All right, this is for x is less than 2. So when x is actually 2, according to this function, the value would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, but it can't equal that. So there's an open circle there, and then it's everything to the left since x is less than that amount. All right, so I can go ahead and erase that. And that's our piecewise function. All right, this next example, we have 1 minus x for x is less than 1. So for that, we have a slope of -1 and a y-intercept of 1. So I'm going to put the y-intercept at 1, and then I'm going to do my negative slope. So just like I did the last time, I'm drawing the whole thing in, and then I'll just go erase my dots later. All right, this is when x is less than 1. So when x is 1, it looks like we have a value of 0. So I put an open circle there, and then everything to the left since x is less than 1. Then the next piece is constant. All right, the f of x is 2 from 1 to 4. So f of x being 2 would be this whole horizontal line. All right, but it's only from 1 to 4. Notice that it's equal at 1 and open circle at 4. And then I can go ahead and erase the rest of that horizontal line that I made. Sorry, I actually ended up erasing more than I wanted to, but I can fix it right now. Okay. And then the last piece is actually a quadratic. And it's a quadratic, it's a U shape, quadratics are U shapes. All right, and this has shifted 4 units to the right because that's my H value. All right, so normally the bottom of the U is at 0, 0, but I'm shifting 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. And because it says greater than or equal to, we're going to put a filled in dot. And then to get other points, we could make a table of values and just plug in numbers that are greater than 4, like 5. Well, 5 minus 4 is 1, and 1 squared is 1, so 5, 1 is a point. We could plug in 6. 6 minus 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we see that U shape forming. All right, this next one, again, is 2 parts. The first part is a regular old quadratic, which is the normal U shape. So I could literally, whoops, that's not the right point. I could literally start, plotting my normal quadratic points, getting that U shape going. All right, but this is only when x is greater than 1. So from here onward would be my U shape. All right, the reason it kind of is pretty steep is because at 3, the value is +9. And it should be an open circle at 1. All right, whoops, I thought I had changed it to my eraser, but I hadn't. All right, the next part is the equation of a line. So the y-intercept there is -1. I'll change colors. So -1, and then we have a slope of +2. So I would rise 2 and I would run 1. I would rise 2, run 1, and I could go on that direction, and then I could also go down 2 and to the left to get the other half of the graph. Now this is when x is less than or equal to 1. So because it's equal to, this dot actually gets filled in, and because it's less than, we're going in this direction. All right, last example. So we have 2x plus 1. That's a line. The slope, or sorry, the y-intercept is 1 and the slope is 2. So rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1. That is difficult to say. We can also go down 2 and to the left 1, down 2 and to the left 1, down 2 and to the left 1, down 2 and to the left 1. Now this is when x is less than 0. So here's where x is 0 along the y-axis. So I'm going to put an open circle right there, and then less than 0, we're going to go to the left, and then I can erase my other dots. All right, we are constant at 1 from 0 to 3. So that's the horizontal line from 0, fill in that dot actually, to 3, and that's also a filled in dot. Then the last part, I'll do in purple, y-intercept of -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a slope of 1. Sorry, slope of 1. I can go in both directions if I want to, but I know that we're not going to overlap the green and purple anyway. This is for x is greater than 3, so right at 3, I would have an open circle right there, and it's greater than, so I draw to the right. All right, so that is graphing piecewise functions and writing equations. Please watch this video as much as you need.